The NBA isn't just basketball anymore. It's a full-blown financial machine. What started in the 1940s as a small, gate-driven league where players made a few $1,000s a year has turned into a global, multi-billion-dollar empire. And in today's NBA, a contract isn't just about paying a star. It can decide whether your franchise wins a championship or locks itself into years of regret. In the 2025 to 2026 season, this might be the biggest financial turning point we've ever seen. From $4,000 salaries to $60 million a year. Let's rewind. Back in the NBA's first season in 1946, teams had a salary cap of just $55,000 total. Not per player, per team. The average player earned somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 a year. Even the early superstar, George Mikan, made $60,000, which was shocking at the time. Fast forward to the 90s. Michael Jordan was making over $30 million in a single season, more than the entire team's salary cap. That's when owners realized things were getting out of hand. So the league introduced max contract tiers based on years of service. 25% of the cap for younger stars, 30% for prime veterans, 35% for superstars with 10 plus years. And that system basically set the stage for the modern Supermax era. Now here's where things get crazy. The NBA just signed an 11-year, $77 billion media deal. That's not a typo. Disney, NBC, Amazon, all in. Because of that deal, the salary cap is projected to grow by the maximum allowed 10% every year for the foreseeable future. This season, 2025 to 26, the cap is about $154 million. By 2030, it's expected to cross $200 million. And that means 35% Supermax players could be making nearly $80 million per year. Stephen Curry is already making close to $60 million. Jaylen Brown is on track to hit almost $70 million in a single season soon. The money is massive. But here's the catch, the apron era, where one bad contract can destroy a team. The new collective bargaining agreement changed everything. Before, rich teams could just pay luxury tax and keep stacking talent. Now, not so simple. There are two new financial lines called the first apron and the second apron. If you cross the first apron, your flexibility shrinks. If you cross the second apron, it's brutal. You lose access to key free agent exceptions, the ability to combine contracts and trades, the ability to send cash in deals, and most painfully, future first-round pick flexibility. So now, a bad contract isn't just expensive, it can completely paralyze your franchise. We're already seeing teams panic. Some are paying players tens of millions just to go away. Milwaukee waived and stretched Damian Lillard, taking on over $22 million per year in dead money for 5 years. Brooklyn bought out Ben Simmons after absorbing nearly $40 million in dead cap. Phoenix had to escape Bradley Beal's massive deal just to avoid financial suffocation. Imagine paying someone $20+ million to play for someone else because keeping them is worse. That's the era we're in. So what makes a contract bad now? It's not just about points per game anymore. Front offices look at efficiency, true shooting percent, impact when on the court versus off, turnovers, defensive rating, availability. If you're making 35% of the salary cap, you better play a lot, be efficient, actually make your team better. Because if you're inefficient, injury prone, or declining, and you're making $50+ million a year, you're not just underperforming, you're choking your team's future. That cap space could have been 3 elite role players. Instead, it's locked into one name. The reality of 2025 to 26. This season represents a perfect storm. Massive new TV money, rapid cap growth, extreme penalties for overspending, and supermax contracts hitting record highs. Teams are walking a financial tightrope. One wrong deal doesn't just hurt for a season, it can close a championship window entirely. And that's why the 2025 to 2026 season isn't just about basketball, it's about economics. Because in today's NBA, the difference between a dynasty and disaster might just be one contract. When you really break down the league right now, looking at contract size, age, injury history, efficiency numbers, and how brutal the new CBA rules are, there are 5 active deals that stick out for all the wrong reasons. These aren't just overpaid players, these are contracts that give you almost nothing back for what you're spending. They eat up cap space, limit flexibility, and in this new apron era, they can completely freeze a franchise in place. Instead of helping build a contender, they function like financial sinkholes, tying up money, blocking moves, and quietly shrinking championship windows year after year. Top 5 worst contracts in the NBA in no particular order. Number 1, LeBron James. LeBron James' salary, $52.6 million. Final year of a 2 years, $101.3 million with a full no-trade clause. Age, 41. Current production, 23.5 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 7.4 assists. He's a billionaire. He's a legend. But we're not talking about his legacy. We're talking about his cap sheet. LeBron is making $52.6 million this season, that is a staggering amount of money for a player in his 23rd NBA season. When he's on the floor, he negatively affects the play of Luka in AR-15. He physically cannot carry a franchise for 82 games anymore, nor should anyone expect him to at this stage. He requires significant load management, and he's atrocious defensively. Now layer that over the Lakers' financial reality. By opting into that $52.6 million player option this summer, LeBron locked up nearly 35% of the team's cap. When you are paying max money to a 41-year-old who misses chunks of the season to rest or rehab, you drastically shrink your margin for error. The Lakers are operating in the suffocating apron era. You're paying prime, franchise-carrying money for twilight availability with zero flexibility to trade out of it. It's the price of doing business with the king. But purely from a roster-building perspective in 2026, that contract is paralyzing. Jimmy Butler, Golden State Warriors 2025-26. Jimmy Butler's salary for this season is $54.1 million. He's 36 and out for the season. Serious knee injury. Last healthy production, 20 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 4.9 assists. Let's start with the toughest one. Golden State betting big on Jimmy Butler has turned into a nightmare scenario. He's making $54.1 million this season, tied with guys like Luka and Giannis. That kind of money isn't just all-star money. That's franchise-carrying, MVP-level production. You're expecting 65 to 70 high-impact games and a deep playoff push. Instead, he's 36 years old and out for the entire season with a severe knee injury. The reported timeline pushes his return into late 2026. That wipes out this year completely and raises real questions about what version of Butler even comes back. And here's the thing, even before the injury, the warning signs were there. Butler has always managed his body heavily during the regular season. Missing 20-plus games wasn't unusual. His game relies on physical drives, contact, and living at the free throw line. That works when you're 29. It's a lot harder when you're mid-30s and your knees start breaking down. The efficiency was starting to fluctuate. The game-to-game production was inconsistent. Some nights he looked locked in. Other nights, the numbers dipped hard. Now layer that on top of the new CBA rules. That $54 million salary eats up more than 35% of the entire cap. In the apron era, that's massive. And because of his age and the injury, this contract has almost zero trade value. No team is taking on that money without Golden State attaching serious draft capital, which means the Warriors are stuck. They're essentially paying over a third of their cap to a player rehabbing a major knee injury. That pushes them toward apron penalties, limits their flexibility, and makes it incredibly hard to pivot toward a rebuild or retool around Steph. This isn't just an expensive contract, it's a frozen asset, and in today's NBA, that can shut a championship window faster than almost anything else. Joel Embiid, Philadelphia 76ers, 2025-26. Salary, $55.2 million. Extension kicks in next year. 3 years, $187.5 million. 2028-29 player option, $67.4 million. Age, 31. Let's be clear, when Joel Embiid is healthy, he's unstoppable. MVP level talent, dominant on both ends. One of the most gifted big men we've ever seen. But that phrase, when healthy, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. He's the second highest paid player in the league this season. That's elite of the elite money. The kind of contract you give to someone you can build your entire identity around for 70-plus games. Instead, availability has become the biggest issue. Since his MVP season, he struggled to stay on the floor consistently. Knee problems, meniscus issues, soft tissue stuff, it's been a cycle. Even this season, he's had stretches where he disappears from the lineup for weeks at a time. And when he does play, the dominance is still there in flashes, but the consistency isn't. There have been nights where he looks like the best center alive, and then nights where the efficiency dips hard. Low 40s from the field, settling for jumpers, three-point shooting hovering in the low 30s. For a 7-footer operating near the rim, that's concerning. Now look at the financial side. He's making $55 million this year. That jumps to $58 million, then $62 million. And by 2028-29, a $67 million player option. Be honest, if his knees continue trending this way, is he turning down $67 million at age 35? Almost no chance. And paying nearly $70 million to a center who might not play 50 games a season in the apron era, that can lock your franchise into a corner fast. Philadelphia is betting that Embiid's talent outweighs the risk. But if the health doesn't stabilize, this contract could quietly become one of the most restrictive in the league. Paul George. Now here's where it really gets complicated. Philadelphia doubled down and handed Paul George a 4-year max at age 35. George is still skilled. He can shoot it, he can defend in spurts, but the version of Paul George you're paying for at $51 million per year, that's supposed to be a franchise-level star. Right now, he's averaging 16 points per game. The efficiency has dipped. The explosiveness isn't the same. He's not living at the rim anymore. A lot of the offense is perimeter-based, and like Embiid, staying on the floor has been an issue for years now. Since leaving OKC, he's rarely played a full season. Knee management, minute restrictions, constant injury report appearances, it's been the pattern. And here's the scary part. Between Embiid and George, the Sixers are committing over $106 million in cap space this season to two players in their 30s with injury histories. That's more than half the flexible spending room tied up in two declining assets. And George has a $56.5 million player option when he's 37. If he's averaging 16 points now at 35, what does 37 look like? Because if he opts in, and realistically, why wouldn't he? Philadelphia is stuck paying max money for production that doesn't resemble a max player. In the old NBA, you could maybe spend your way around that. In the new apron era, that kind of cap structure can freeze a franchise for years. And that's what makes this situation so risky. It's not just one big contract, it's two. Zach LaVine, Sacramento Kings, 2025 to 26. Cap hit, $47.5 million. Age, 30, 2026 to 27. Player option, $48.9 million. Status, season-ending hand surgery. Zach LaVine's contract is the kind of deal that looks fine on paper until you zoom out. He's making nearly $47.5 million this season. That's max money territory. That's change the franchise money. But what are the Kings actually getting? Before undergoing season-ending hand surgery, LaVine played just 39 games. His numbers? About 19 points per game, under 3 rebounds, barely over 2 assists. The shooting splits look solid at first glance. Efficient from the field, respectable from 3, but that's only part of the story. He's not a primary playmaker. He's not a strong defender. He's not elevating teammates. He's a scoring wing being paid like a franchise cornerstone. And here's the bigger issue. Sacramento isn't winning because of him. The team's offensive and defensive ratings have been near the bottom of the league. So even if he's putting up decent scoring numbers, it's not translating to impact. Now add the contract structure. There's a trade kicker baked in. He has a nearly $49 million player option next year. If the Kings want to move off this deal, they can't just trade him easily. In the apron era, moving a $47 million contract usually means taking back another bad contract. So now you're just swapping problems. That's why this deal is so dangerous. He's not bad. He's just being paid like something he isn't. And when you're locked into max money for a secondary scorer who just had surgery, that can stall a franchise fast. And that's the theme with these contracts. It's not that these players can't hoop, it's that the money no longer matches the impact. It's easy to point at the $50 to $60 million supermax guys and say, that's the problem. But honestly, the middle class is just as dangerous. Because in this new apron era, overpaying a role player for $30+ million can quietly wreck your flexibility just as fast as a bad supermax. If you miss on that evaluation, you're stuck filling the rest of your roster with minimum contracts, and that's how depth disappears. Jeremy Grant, Portland Trailblazers. Grant is in year 3 of a 5-year, $160 million deal. He's making $32 million this season, and that number climbs toward $36+ million if he picks up his option in a couple of years. Here's the issue. Jeremy Grant is a good player, versatile, can defend, can score, solid two-way forward, but he's being paid like a franchise pillar. Portland is rebuilding. They're not contending, and paying $32 million to a 31-year-old forward who doesn't meaningfully shift your timeline, that's tough asset management. Contenders have poked around in trade talks, but here's the problem. In the second apron era, no serious contender wants to absorb $34 to $36 million for a secondary piece. It's not that Grant can't help a team, it's that his number makes teams nervous. So now you've got a good player on a deal that makes him incredibly hard to move. That's the middle class squeeze. Then there's Jordan Poole. He's making $31.8 million this season, nearly 20% of the cap, and he's coming off the bench. Poole had flashes earlier in his career. He can get hot, he can score in bunches, but in New Orleans, his role has shrunk. He's hovering around 15 to 16 points a game in a sixth-man role. The efficiency? Inconsistent. Low 40s from the field, mid-30s from 3. When you're paying almost $32 million for a volume-based scoring guard who isn't starting and isn't defending at a high level, that's a cap imbalance. And here's what really hurts teams. That $31 to $32 million could have been split into 2 high-level rotation players. Instead, it's locked into one streaky bench scorer. That makes it harder to use exceptions like the non-taxpayer MLE or build real depth around your core. Most of these deals were paid for past performance. They didn't fully account for age curves, injury risk, or how certain skill sets age once the athleticism dips. In today's NBA, you can't just evaluate talent. You have to evaluate risk. Because the difference between building a dynasty and being stuck in cap purgatory story isn't just who you sign, it's whether the math actually makes sense. And if you get that math wrong, the new CBA makes sure you feel it for years. Like, subscribe, share, and maybe even hype the video. Let me know if you agree with my worst contract list. Thanks for watching.